Studio 33480 is a production of the Palm Beach Civic Association. We thank our sponsor, the Fortin Foundation of Florida. And now, our host.
Welcome to Studio 33480. I'm Claudia Shea. The biomedical landscape in Palm Beach County is thriving and marked by tremendous innovation. The Herbert Wertheim UF Scripps Institute for Biomedical Innovation and Technology, located in Jupiter, is at the forefront of groundbreaking research to find solutions to unmet medical needs. Our guest today, we're so thrilled, is Dr. Courtney Miller, who oversees academics at the Institute. Thank you, Dr. Miller, so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your particular work at the Institute and what you do.
So I have two roles. One, I'm a professor, and so I have appointments in the departments of molecular medicine and neuroscience, which is a reflection of the areas of research that I work in. And then I also have the role of the director of academic affairs. And that's an interesting position. So I oversee things like tenure and promotions for the faculty as they move forward, making sure we're supporting our newer, younger faculty in their advancement through their career. But another piece of the position that I really enjoy is our STEM education and training programs. So I oversee that. There's a director under me who's an amazing scientist that handles these programs, but we work with students all the way from high school through graduate school. And of course, we have positions beyond then, but in terms of training, we have a high school internship program. So it's called the Komen Fellows Program for high school students to come in and do a summer internship with us, working in labs, getting really hands-on experience in biomedical research, which really helps to sort of take the mystique out of it, which is an excellent entree into what they may want to do as undergraduates.
So you're helping to build our future workforce.
We absolutely are, yes. And I think it's providing opportunities to students that they really would not normally have at the high school level. And we see every summer it igniting a passion in these students. And then we get to follow them over subsequent years and see where they go. Many of them end up in medical school, in graduate school, and then ultimately in industry or their universities. So it's really exciting to watch.
You're such an important part of our community from the research standpoint, from the education standpoint, from the giving back to the community, which has supported you now for many, many years. Can you just walk us through, us lay people, through the process? You have all of this important research going on there. How does it actually get, when it's successful research, from the research stage to the consumer?
That is an excellent question and a big one. So at Wertheim UF Scripps, we have approximately 40 principal investigators. And what that means is we have 40 different research labs led by PhD level scientists, other professors like myself. And in those labs, we all have our own research programs. They operate a little bit like small businesses. And within those research programs, we're tackling a laundry list of biomedical research needs, different health issues. So things like diabetes, cancer, which is something we'll probably be talking about more, things related to the brain like Alzheimer's disease, autism, etc. So we cover just a really wide variety. And so inside our labs, we do basic early preclinical research, and largely that is funded through the NIH. So we apply for grants, the National Institutes for Health, and as those are funded, that supports our research to make these basic discoveries. But we take it a step further than a typical university scientist in that our goal is to make new medications and bring that to patients. And so a typical university position would be to make these discoveries of this could be turned into the next medicine. Instead, we actually work to turn that into the next medicine. So you may identify a protein in the body that's behaving abnormally, and we figure out ways to change its behavior, to correct it. And that can be the basis of a medicine.
And so your researchers who are actually on site, on that property, actually work with, is it chemists? I know in another building some of these medications are developed. How does that work?
Yeah, so that's actually why I came to Wertheim UF Scripps, is the ability to work with people that have expertise in drug discovery and development, which is that sort of area that spans from the initial discovery to something to take to the clinic. It's very, very unique in an academic setting to have this, and that's why I came here.
So you mentioned that there are 40 separate labs. The staff size is, 300 plus? Mm-hmm. And a lot of PhDs included.
Yes, we have well over 100 PhD scientists on our campus working to solve these health problems. And many of them are biologists, some are chemists, and then also there are those with expertise in drug discovery and development. So we have a unique setup. We can do things that you would typically only find in pharmaceutical companies, in industry, looking at the way that a drug is metabolized in the body. And what that means is how long is it around? And if you're trying to treat a brain-based disorder, is it getting into the brain at the levels that you need it to? And if it's not, then we can go next door to work with our medicinal chemists on campus, many of whom used to be employed at places like Merck. And they can change the structure to help it get into the brain better.
This is really exciting information. I know that you have a public lecture coming up. It's open to everyone, and it is a lecture in which there will be a panel and you're talking to people from all walks of life. So if you live in Abacoa, if you live, you're just a resident of this area and you want to go, this isn't going to be science that's over your head. It's just going to be letting the community know what's going on. January 17th, and I love the name of it. It's part of the 2024 Innovation Lectures, Outsmarting Cancer. Again, it's on January 17th on your property. Tell us about that panel. So you're on the panel.
I am, yes, exactly. So this is our first public lecture since we joined forces with the University of Florida. And so this will be the beginning of a whole series of lectures on different topics. So of course this one will be on cancer. And several of us that do research in that area will be interviewed and talking about the work that we're doing and advances we're making.
So another panelist, very learned, is Dr. Matthew Pipkin. And we actually went to the lab recently and talked to him about the work that he's undertaking right now. So let's take a look at that for a moment.
My name's Matthew Pipkin, and I'm a PhD, associate professor in the Department of Immunology and Microbiology at the U.S. Scripps Wertheim Institute. My team focuses on understanding how T cells react against viruses and tumors. We try to understand how good immune responses against viruses that are protective could be leveraged to be used in anti-cancer therapy or chronic infection settings. Many people might be aware now of immunotherapies that are used to combat cancer, but those only right now focus on a handful of genes, probably less than a dozen or so, whereas our body encodes 40,000 genes. So the focus of our laboratory is really to identify which genes of those 40,000 are essential for an effective immune response and how we can manipulate them to reprogram T cells to attack cancer. I think the most exciting thing in terms of cancer therapy over the last 30 years has been the immune system. These biological treatments are adaptable. They come with many fewer side effects. And often, in many cases, in certain tumor cases, are leading to basically complete responses. Both of my grandfathers died from cancer. My one grandfather was pancreatic cancer, and my other grandfather prostate cancer. And that occurred, my first grandfather died when I was 15, and I was very interested in science at that time, but I had read a book while I was in high school about how the immune system could be leveraged to attack cancer, and I think that was kind of the impetus that I would put the two things together. So my personal story, losing two grandfathers who were very close to me, and being excited about the idea that our body could adapt and take care of the cancer itself if we could only learn how to do it.
He had a lot of really important information and great insight there, and to think that all of this for him came out of two of his grandfathers being diagnosed with cancer. I can't think of anyone who doesn't know somebody who's had cancer or is battling cancer themselves. It's so prevalent, right?
Yeah, it really is. I think, as you said, we've all been touched in one way or another, some more than others. And so it definitely gives us the motivation to come in every day. Science isn't easy. It's a whole lot of failures that eventually lead to breakthroughs, and it can be really motivating.
I think this is going to be an outstanding lecture. Okay, some of the other speakers, Dr. Disney, Dr. Griffin, Dr. Yana Shevska, and these people are all they all have a different perspective, different fields of study?
Yes, exactly. So cancer is not one disease. It's an incredibly complex series of diseases, and even within one type of cancer, there are a whole variety based on mutations that are present inside the cancer cells to their genes. And so that means that the right treatment, even within a single cancer, may not be the same. And anyone that has suffered from breast cancer or knows someone that has knows that there are a whole variety of breast cancers, and the treatments that you apply to each of those are different. But there are also different ways that you can approach it, from the immune system, as in the case of Dr. Pipkin's work, to looking at what I will discuss, which is different sort of molecular motors and how they drive these cells to divide in an uncontrolled way. So we're attacking it on multiple fronts so that you can come up with these combination therapies that really can stop cancer.
It's so exciting to have this in our backyard, to have this kind of research going on in Jupiter. You get a diagnosis of cancer, and it's so daunting. And then this is the good news, that brilliant people like yourself and the other members of the panel and all the good folks working over on this campus are just doing such groundbreaking work. And you never know from day to day what could lead to a breakthrough and change someone's life forever. You yourself have many accolades. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you because a couple of years ago, you came to the Palm Beach Civic Association and you spoke at our director's luncheon. Do you recall what you spoke about?
I do, yeah. There were two different topics that we covered. One was sort of introducing our institute following the integration with the University of Florida. It has really provided us with some additional areas of strength, particularly the clinical aspect. We do a lot of the work to get a medication to the clinic, and now we can partner with the University of Florida and their strong clinical component. Then we also, so it was myself and Dr. Griffin, who will be on this same panel, did that introduction. And then I also spoke about some of the research going on in my own lab, cancer, but also some really different areas, more focused on psychiatric disorders, including drug addiction, better referred to as substance use disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Both of those have a really strong component of memory, and so we're working on targeting those.
How would you tie those all together? There's such different conditions when you talk about cancer and addiction and PTSD. How do you do that work?
Yeah, they really are. And I can honestly say that when I got started in my research career, I was coming from the perspective of addiction and studying the way the brain learns and remembers in the long term. I had no idea that ultimately I'd be working on potential treatments for things like glioblastoma or pancreatic cancer. But that's the fun thing about science. It's really sort of a roller coaster, and you follow where it leads you. So the brain is a really interesting organ. It's so much more complex than really the rest of the body. And what it's done over time is repurpose processes that the rest of the body's cells use, but for its own uses. And so what that means is when you, say, form a new memory, there are changes where things grow in the brain, and that is where information storage is placed. Okay, so that information storage, unfortunately, can lead to this perpetual motivation for drugs of abuse or for traumatic memories associated with PTSD. We need this for normal memories, but unfortunately there are times where it goes awry. Or in Alzheimer's disease, you have the reverse. Memories can begin to fail. But it turns out that many of the processes at the cellular level that the brain is using to remember, cells in the rest of the body are using to do simpler actions like growing and dividing. And so we've ended up sort of connecting these across. And so there are the same proteins that we want to target to reverse memories that you don't want, like those that drive you to seek drugs or driving these traumatic memories. They're also the ones that are making tumor cells grow and proliferate in this unchecked manner. And it's something you really would never predict, but it is what the body has done. It's had to work with a set number of players, and so it just applies it to the way it needs it to work. And so we can make medications that target these same proteins, but will have very different effects depending on where we send it in the body.
I have a quote from Dr. Wertheim. I'm sure you've heard it yourself, but I'm going to make sure I read it from here so I don't misquote him. Let's think of Jupiter as a launch pad the way we think of Cape Canaveral. This is going to be a launch pad for science. How do you feel about those words?
I couldn't agree more. I think that with the support from Dr. Wertheim and the University of Florida, we'll be able to take the long-standing mission that we've had for many, many years of developing new medications and bringing them to the clinic, but to really supercharge that. And we're already seeing evidence of that. So it's empowering us to do what we do well, even better and faster.
Another accolade for you. You were 2022's BioFlorida Entrepreneur of the Year. That seems like a pretty tough award to win. What was it that, put you over the top and set you apart?
It actually highlights one of the things that makes us unique at Wertheim UF Scripps. As I've said repeatedly, we're working on developing new medications. a big component of that for actually getting it to the clinic is spinning off early life sciences startup companies so that we can access investment funds to really, because developing medications is extremely expensive. Ask anyone in the pharmaceutical industry and look at the cost of pharmaceuticals themselves. It's very expensive work. And so in that vein, I made some initial discoveries in my own lab, and then I partnered with two of my colleagues at Scripps, who used to be at, both were previously at Merck, and we co-founded a company called Myosin Therapeutics. And there we are developing treatments for psychiatric disease and cancer. And so it's for the work that I've been doing with my co-founders in Myosin that led to that BioFlorida Entrepreneur of the Year award.
Well, we commend you for that. That's just amazing. I know you're outstanding in your field, as are many doctors over at the Institute. So I just want to give our audience a reminder again, the 2024 Innovation Lecture, Outsmarting Cancer, January 17th. If you have received an invitation, be sure to RSVP. It's going to be very exciting, and a lot of people are planning on going. Again, it's open to the public, and it is complimentary. I wish you great success. And I thank you so much for sharing your very, very busy schedule with us here on Studio 33480.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.
Studio 33480 is brought to you by the Palm Beach Civic Association. We thank our sponsor, the Fortin Foundation of Florida, and our viewers. We welcome your thoughts on how our programming can best serve our members and residents.